That's Eddie.
Doing good. I was speaking with
Eddie looks better than now. Les Hatley.
Hatley?
Yeah.
Les Hatley. Very nice. Yeah, that's going to be a great thing.
If you want to take a moment to get a preview.
How you doing?
Oh, you got it right here?
Yeah. I got from this 1965 till entries in this book from the other day.
Can I film you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Were you in one of the bands that played here?
Yeah, I was with the Showmen.
Which band was that?
The Showmen.
And when did the Showmen play here?
We played. We started playing in the area in 1965. We played here a few times. We played at the Bethesda Youth Center quite a bit as well. And what I've done is I started a scrapbook in 1965, and I've maintained it till today. And it's I scanned it, and sometime this year I hope to turn it into a CD book. It's like nearly 800 pages long now, and it's really a history book.
It's going to be an online project?
Well, I don't know. I need to find somebody who, a publisher who can actually help guide me to the process. But I've got the product now. I've got nearly 800 pages of the history of our area from 1965 to now. Well, of my music family, which is pretty wide. But it starts off with the Wheaton and Bethesda Youth Center, and it goes all the way to the venues that we play today that are not quite like this. But
can I just get you to say your name and the band again? Because it was a little.
My name is Les Hatley, and the band back then is called the Showmen.
When did you play here?
Well, I've got it here. I've got in the 60s. Here's an example of a clip from the newspaper from sometime in the 60s, right here, about the Wheaton Youth Center. One of the famous Battle of the Bands, and the Velours played here, the Spades played at this Battle of the Bands. The Showmen played and lost. But
how many times did you play here?
We probably played here.
This came from a guy named Charlotte.
Played less than half a dozen times. But the Wheaton Youth Center had a companion center, the Bethesda Youth Center. And the Bethesda Youth Center is now called the Writers Center. And it occupies the same building. It's just as quaint as it was then. I'm on the board of the Writers Center, and there's a lot of interest by the Writers Center in the history of the Bethesda Youth Center, which is directly connected to the Wheaton Youth Center.
And are there any particularly memorable gigs?
At the
as far as the Wheaton Youth Center?
The battles.
Battle of the Bands?
The Battle of the Bands here were special. This room was packed. There was a stage set up, I think, in the back of the room that was, like a loft or whatever. And there'd be a band set up there and a band set up there. And I think it was this battle right here. No, one of the other battles that we played. And then we left right away. We had to go down to Alexandria, Virginia to play a show with the Chartbusters, who at the time had a hit record. But the most memorable part of that night was that we lost the Battle of Bands here, but at least we got to go play with the Chartbusters. And the guys that won the Battle of the Bands was this group here, the Velours.
Those were the winners, huh?
Yeah, that night it was.
Now, is this photo from that show?
Yeah.
This is from Wheaton Youth Center, this particular photo?
Yeah, this is I was talking about the stage that was up against the wall.
So there was a second stage back there.
And so they would set, to keep the thing going, they would have a band set up here, and when one was through, the other would play.
And which stage were you guys on?
The one in the back.
You were on the back stage.
Yeah. And but we played some dances here, but the scrapbook here, the scanned scrapbook, starts in 1965 and it goes all the way till today. Some of us kept on playing, and it goes from this stage to the Grammy Award ceremonies and the festivals and so forth. But
and when you played here, in that era, about how old were you?
We were late teens.
The band was in the late teens?
We were in late teens.
Did you meet a lot of girls playing in your band?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, have you ever heard of the Nighthawks, Mark
Sure.
Winter? He tells a story about how, because his younger brother played with us in the Showman, and before he created the Nighthawks, he tells a story about how he would come like here when we were playing and pretend that he was our manager because he said it helped him pick up chicks.
Wow, so your band must have been pretty big with the ladies.
In our minds.
Well, if Mark, you said it was Mark Winter, right?
Mark
He
Winter.
must have, if he could meet women just being your manager, then you guys must have cleaned up.
No, they disconnected. He was a little bit older, a couple years older than us, and at that time that meant he had the car.
Oh, I see.
And stuff like that. But,
He was a good fast talker.
well, he's a blues legend, and he deserves to be.
That's great. Anything particularly memorable about playing here? Anything like particularly wild happen? Was the crowd pretty good? Were they pretty responsive?
Well, as I said, there's the Wheaton Center, there's the Bethesda Youth Center.
Right.
And one time in the late 60s, someone named the fantastic Johnny C. had a Boogaloo down Broadway. Well, our band, the Showman, played as his backup band. And I was just telling somebody a story the other night about how, see, you know, when you're on stage and you're playing with somebody who has a hit record, as soon as the audience hears the signature opening of the song, and I remember thinking to myself before we played Boogaloo down Broadway, since I had to start it on guitar, that the last thing I could do in this lifetime is mess that up. I could not mess up the signature opening of that song, because as soon as the audience heard that, I knew that they would go wild. But I was terrified. I was terrified that I might mess it up. So I talked myself into putting it out of my mind, and I did. It came time, opened it up, the crowd roared, that's why we were all there, and that was one of my best youth center gig moments.